Hello and welcome to Too Many Movies, the podcast where we discuss DVDs, Blu-rays, and even the occasional VHS tape. I'm your host, Hal, and with me here today, second time around, Perry. How you doing?
I have a question for you, Hal.
Okay.
Is you ain't my baby?
Maybe baby's found somebody new. Beto.
That was the correct answer. Good job. Yeah, but hey everyone, this is AgentP3, also known as Perry, as Hal just introduced me as. I guess I do YouTube still. I'm taking a little break because school will be crazy right now. I'm trying to graduate, but I usually do video essays on like movies and TV shows. I'm gonna try to do more content in the future, but I just thought it'd be cool to chill and hang out with some friends and do this podcast with Hal. Thank you again for having me on for a second time.
Yeah, no, dude, we've been trying to get this going.
Yeah, for a little bit.
My apologies. I'm just really bad at scheduling because then better episodes come up, and I'm just like, I want to do.
Better episodes than me. Okay, nah.
Yeah.
No, I understand how. No, I get you have other friends. But
I'm glad you do understand. The American Psycho episode was a bane on my existence. I hate it. I want to delete it off the internet.
Fucking American Psycho 2, like destroyed my sense of having faith in any media whatsoever.
It destroyed too many movies. It destroyed William Shatner. It didn't do anything to Mila Kunis's career. Apparently.
Nah, she's still voicing Meg. Like she got. I think Seth MacFarlane saw that movie and fired her from Ted 2. That's why she's not in Ted 2. So yeah. He's just like, clearly you don't do well with 2 movies. Exactly, so. Exactly. So that's why she's not in Ted 2.
So, well, anyway, we have some movies to talk about.
Yes,
one of those movies you were very keen on talking about, so I'm going to let you introduce it. Please.
So,
why did you do this to me?
Yeah, I apologize. You know what? I take full blame for whatever feelings Hal has to this movie. We're going to talk about the first movie we're going to talk about, which is Tom and Jerry the movie. The first one that came out in 95, the same year as Toy Story, which is crazy. Actually, no, some people say 1992. 1992, my bad. So I looked up some history about this movie, and some people say it came out in 1995. The first source I looked up on Google said 1995, but then on Wikipedia it says 1992. So that's weird. So no one gives a crap about this movie enough to they can't even get their years right, which I think is very interesting. But to give context of why I wanted to torture Hal with this movie. So Hal, as he's probably said on this podcast a billion times, is a huge fan of the Nostalgia Critic. I am as well. And he mentioned to me a movie that he grew up with, his childhood movie. I think it was Thomas the Tank Engine and the Magic Flute or something like that.
Thomas and the Magic Railroad.
And he, while he was still a big fan of Nostalgia Critic, he watched Nostalgia Critic Doug Walker do a review of that movie, and he took a huge jump on it. And I think Hal was I guess not all my movies are as good as I remember. So that's me with this movie. I'm also I was a pretty huge Nostalgia Critic fan. Not so much anymore. Actually, not at all anymore. I literally just unsubscribed from his channel 2 years ago. But back in the day, when I was so young and trying to get the film criticisms, I was a huge fan of the Nostalgia Critic, and I watched all his videos, and I landed on this movie or his video on this movie, and I had the same reaction. I thought, he usually does bad movies, so I was like, Tom and Jerry is on there. I thought Tom and Jerry is good because this is a movie that I grew up with that I love, because I love the original Tom and Jerry. Tom and Jerry is one of my favorite childhood cartoons I used to watch with my dad and my sister, and we have so many good memories of watching that show. The bit I did with Hal in the beginning, "Is You Ain't My Baby," that the song that Tom sings. My dad and I would sing that to each other all the time. We have so many good memories from watching that.
Solid Serenade, right? That's the name of the cartoon.
Yeah. And of course, they're gonna buy me this movie, and I enjoyed it because I had Tom and Jerry in it. And then Nostalgia Critic was like, "No, this movie's bad." And that's the first realization that I had. That was I guess Tom and Jerry's not a good movie, and I just had no idea. So I wanted to rewatch it with Hal. I guess I have it in my adult brain is to see, okay, does this movie hold up? Does it not hold up? There's some good redeeming parts about it, and no, there's not that much.
Now look, I will agree that Doug Walker can be a little rude, over analytical, maybe a bit mean towards some movies. I get it. Some movies he's a little a little much on them. And as I've seen it happen before. Like, you know, like these videos will his videos will dominate and be like, yeah, this is the opinion we have on this movie. And then years later, people will be like, no, you know what? Maybe he was a little too critical of it. Maybe he didn't really give it a chance. And so then we have this like idea in our head that maybe, you know, maybe these movies aren't that bad. No, I'm siding with the critic on this one. This was a huge piece of shit.
I rewatched the review to get prepared for this
I did too.
podcast. He got one thing wrong, but I'll talk about that later. But other than that, he pretty much got everything spot on. I was even making jokes to myself that he made already. Like, for example, Robin Zed, the forgettable orphan girl's dad, he called her Indiana Jones. And in my head, when I was watching this movie, I called him Indiana Jones too. So like, me and him still have the same opinions on certain aspects of this movie, which he looks like Indiana Jones mixed with Tom Selleck.
Yeah. PI.
I don't know what that is, but yes. I should know. Youngins. Yeah, I am a damn youngin. Yeah, you're right. But yeah, no. So let's just go ahead and get into this. So like, yeah, what do you want to start with? Like, you want to start with the good, the bad? I think there's a lot of bad, right? So,
I guess if I want to mention some good from what I remember is that the animation was fine, and I liked some of the slapstick, but it was not the same as like, you know, the original slapstick. Like, I remember when I was watching it with friends. And I remember a friend of the pod, William, pointed out, he's like, this movie's not doing slapstick correctly. And I was like, you're absolutely right. Because like one piece of slapstick I do remember off the top of my head is that one scene when they're being chased by the dog on the skateboard. As for the audience that doesn't know, there's a morbidly obese dog on a skateboard that sounds like Gollum.
Yeah.
Just cuz. And it chases Tom and Jerry at one point. And at one point, if I remember correctly, it like crashes into a wall, and it's not like, it doesn't crash properly. Like, he just like kind of crashes into the wall, and then that's it. Like, I don't know. The animation was not very like, it didn't have much weight to it. It didn't look like it was actually like, it didn't look cartoony enough. Like, it was just kind of lame.
Just like, something crazy that hasn't happened in like the last, like, I guess 45 minutes. Let's like have this weird scene with the dog and Tom and Jerry, except like Tom and Jerry barely participate in the slapstick, and it's just a dog, and they didn't animate.
That's another thing. Yeah, Tom and Jerry barely do any slapstick, and when they do, it's fun. But that's like
there's like one bit in the beginning, and then like the final shot, like the money shot, I guess.
The money shot. No, exactly.
Yeah.
I guess the only other positive I have is that this movie did provide us with the "we've got to have money."
Yeah, that was
like, it gave us that meme, which I mean, it is a very good meme. Like, when we were watching it and we like, it was coming up, and like we saw the Tony J lawyer character where he's like, "We've got to have money."
Yeah, you guys.
And we were just like, "Woo, yeah!"
I saw it on your Letterboxd review. Yeah, that was really funny. I did not clap. I was a little too tired to clap at that moment, but I was like, funny meme in my head. But
so
I
anyway,
guess,
that's basically all I have for compliments towards this movie. No bueno.
Yeah, no, my compliments. I'm a little bit nicer, and this is probably because I did grow up with this movie. Even I do recognize there's a lot that doesn't work about it. I think if you can squint a little bit, one of the positives I had was, I think if Tom and Jerry ever had a voice, this is probably, they were characterized pretty okay in this. I think they kind of acted like their characters from like the original cartoons. Like, I think Tom was like more of an antagonistic towards Jerry. I feel like that's in character for him based off the original cartoon. Jerry was also a little bit nicer, a little bit more sensible, because I think Jerry was always a little bit smarter than Tom, a little bit more reasonable than he was. This is why he usually won in like most of their conflicts in the original cartoon. So I think they got them right for the most part. And I know like it's according to Doug Walker, like one of the 10 commandments is Tom and Jerry shall not talk. But if they did talk, I think they wrote them okay.
Well, let's talk about that, actually.
Yeah, go ahead.
The fact that they talk. So actually, while we were watching it, again, William had pointed out, he's just like, so when they had trailers for this, did they advertise that they had voices? And I actually wanted to know. So I looked up a classic trailer. And what's funny is the classic trailer started off and it just showed like Robin and all like that, like all those adult characters. And then at one point halfway through, they're just like, they're just like, oh, Tom and Jerry enter, and then Jerry starts talking immediately. And it's like, okay, so they were pretty blatant with this, that they were going to make it a movie where Tom and Jerry spoke, which I don't know, because like it was really funny because the first time they do speak, it is kind of a shocking moment.
Yeah,
you know, because it just kind of comes out of nowhere where they're just
also,
like, I'm Tom, I'm
dumb
Jerry.
Way for them to start talking to each other. Like they had this like silent like repertoire with each other for years. And like, the one thing that breaks their silence is one random dog asking them who they are. Like, come on, like that's such a lame excuse for them to start talking to each other. Like,
and look,
yeah,
and I agree that maybe old Dougie Boy was a little harsh, where he's just like, they do not speak. It's like, yeah, you could probably argue that's a bit gatekeepy nerd kind of reaction. But again, I'm gonna have to side with Dougie Boy on this one. I don't like their voices. I really don't. Like, it's.
I don't think it suits the character. Like, if they.
No.
Yeah, I agree, because like I can't remember the guy's name, but he voices Bing Bong and
Richard Kind.
Richard Kind. He voices Andrew Gloverman's dad in Big Mouth. If you watch that show,
I do not.
I respect his. Well, I respect his the actor. I respect his voice. He does not shoot Tom.
You know what? Here's the thing. Richard Kind, Dana Hill, they are the ones who provide the voices of Tom and Jerry.
Yeah.
Look, other than this movie, I agree. They're good voice actors.
Yeah.
Like, I think they can do really good stuff. It's just that I was enjoying the movie significantly more when Tom and Jerry weren't speaking.
Yeah, like the first 10 minutes were actually really good. Like
there are moments throughout the movie where they don't say anything, and you just are going off of their reactions.
Yeah.
And that is significantly more interesting to me than if they say anything.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, no, like I agree. And I was going to say something else. Oh yeah, I think the other thing that I think the movie got right, and I think Doug Walker didn't really point this out, is that I think they act like their relationship doesn't really change in the movie. Like, they're still kind of rivals. Like, they're sure they're working together because they have to, but like I feel like if this was like a normal cartoon, they would act the same way. Like, again, Tom bullies Jerry every second he gets. Like, when I think when Tom, Jerry, and Robin are on that raft, Jerry like snuggles up to Tom, and Tom like tries to get him off, like any way he can. I feel like Tom would do that in the original cartoons. I think that was fine. And then like Tom in the beginning like trapped Jerry when they're trying to get something to eat with the other dog and the cricket. Like, Tom would do that in the original cartoon too. I think they are still like, they're not best friends, or they're not like I think they're friends, but they're not like, you know, buddy like immediately. Like in the movie when they start talking, they still act like each other, you know. And I think the movie does get that right whenever they're on screen.
I think whenever Tom and Jerry are on screen, they're duking it out. They're not talking. I agree. The movie gets that right.
Yeah,
and that's like 1/20th of the movie, which is the problem.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, it's Tom and Jerry the movie, and yet it's not really about Tom and Jerry. It's about
there were points in the movie where I'm just like, oh right, it's Tom and Jerry.
Yeah, exactly. This is not like a generic Disney / Anastasia ripoff. Oh, this is Tom and Jerry, and that's another big issue. I feel like this movie was too afraid to like. They were thinking, okay, Tom and Jerry, you know, all they do is like chase around each other, hit each other with heavy things. But what else can we do? So let's just copy like Disney and Anastasia and like not really understand why those movies worked in the first place. Just like try to copy those tropes and just kind of go from there. And that's like
so. Let's talk about that aspect. It's a musical.
Yeah,
I hate that.
Yeah,
I really don't like any of these songs. All these songs are terrible.
I like 2 of the songs.
I don't remember any of them.
They're okay. So this is again probably Stockholm syndrome for me watching this as a kid. But the first song where they're like the friendship song, even though I know like that's the killer of Tom and Jerry's relationship, I actually like that song. Not because of the content of the movie. I think it's just a good song. Like, the lyrics aren't good, but it has a catchy melody, and it gets stuck in my head very easily. I don't know why. And then like the very last song with the sailor. Which is probably the most potent song in the movie besides the cat song, which I actually forgot about. Like, when that showed up in my recent reviewing, I completely forgot that was in the movie. But the last song with the sailor is kind of catchy too, and I think about that like daily almost, which I'm ashamed to say. But
Captain Kitty,
I have to say Captain Kitty, which is a terrible name. Oh my god, played by Rip Taylor, who's the big Gex meme, because I think Gex likes to rip Taylor a lot. If you know do you know what Gex is?
I do know what Gex is.
Yeah. Scott the Wise loves to.
Thank you, Puff.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I did like two of the songs. The rest of them are kind of forgettable and bland.
Well, because like I'm even though I'm not the biggest fan of musicals, it's not because I hate the idea of characters breaking out into song.
Mm-hmm.
I just I don't like my problems with something like say Dear Evan Hansen isn't that the characters break out into song, it's that the movie is terrible.
Yeah.
Like, if anything, the songs kind of save that movie a little for me.
Yeah.
Like the recent Mean Girls movie. Like, the songs themselves are not bad. In fact, I was actually more interested in the movie when the characters were singing than when they weren't. Like, I'm not one of those people that, like, complains about musicals where people break out into musical numbers. But I will say, I really hated this movie whenever it broke out into a musical number because it was never necessary.
Yeah,
like when a character broke out in a song, every time I was just like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
And they lasted forever. Like they lasted so long. Like,
yeah,
we get it, Aunt Fig. You like money. We get it, Lick Boot. You fucking want to pork Aunt Fig. I'm gonna show this to my dad, and he's gonna be like traumatized by me like cursing. I gotta watch that. But dude, nobody cares. And
by the way, Lick Boot.
Lick Boot is such a weird name for a character.
Yeah.
Who thought that in a kids movie too? Like who thought that was a interesting or a good name for a kid's character? Like what kids laughing at Lick Boot?
The same guy who directed Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer.
Oh
God,
that was a
good idea.
That was another movie we were supposed to watch. I hate that movie so much.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. We love you, Phil Roman.
Oh my god, cool. I don't know who that is, but I don't.
He's the director
I don't
of the
speak
movie.
for. I don't speak for Hal.
I speak for Hal. We love Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer over here, Phil. We love your work.
Well, I'm not associated with that statement, but okay.
Okay, we don't love your work when it comes to Tom and Jerry the movie.
Yeah, no, you did not.
Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer, classics.
Sure. But no, the orphan girl, what's her name again? I said her name a bunch of times. Robin, that's her name. Robin's song, Annie. Oh my god, so bad. Yeah. I mean, the melody's fine, but like when you listen to the lyrics, it's like she's saying the same thing over and over. She's just saying like sad metaphors to the sky. Like, okay, how original is that? You know, like that's just terrible. It's like they're going through the motions of like a kids movie or like a you know what I said earlier. They're going through the motions of what makes a kids movie or Disney movie, like the stereotypes of those movies, and they're not like giving any substance to it. It's just like the greatest hits. Like, oh wow, this poor beautiful white girl. Who, thank God she's not like a minority, disabled, dumb, like any of these other things. Like, of course, and she's also rich. And she's also rich. Like, what if she wasn't rich? Like, would the movie lift her up like that? I don't know. That's just. This is the thing that I thought about. It's just so frustrating.
I just don't understand why she's in a Tom and Jerry movie.
Yeah, that too.
Like she's literally the part in Nostalgia Critic's video where he's just like, "Hey, could you like go away? We're filming a Tom and Jerry movie here." It's like literally, like exactly. Why is she literally here?
Walking on? She came out of nowhere. Like she just walked on. Felt like she walked on the set and just started giving her monologue until they gave her the movie. That's pretty much what happened. Like, it would have made sense if like they maybe like. This still wouldn't have helped at all, but if they set up her story in the beginning before we met Tom and Jerry, maybe that could have worked a little more. But she just came out of nowhere, and now we care about her because, like, I don't know, like I guess Tom and Jerry has nothing else to do, so like follow that little girl in back alleys. It sounds pretty bad out of context, but like,
well, so I'll give the movie this. I understand why it's doing this. It's that the filmmakers realized, okay, we're making a Tom and Jerry movie. It's like, okay, Tom and Jerry is famous because they had little vignettes in like cartoons that lasted about 8 to 10 minutes, 10 minutes max. Like, you know, these were cartoons. Like they were supposed to be short. That was the appeal, you know, because they're so simplistic. You could put them in any situation and you could just let them run wild and that would be enough. I have been rewatching some classic Tom and Jerry cartoons recently and some of them are really funny. Like I was like dying of laughter at some of these. I'm just like, Jesus, these have aged so gracefully.
They have.
Like they're so good. And so I get it when the filmmakers are tasked with, okay, we got to make an hour-and-a-half movie out of that. I get it. You got to like put them in situations that are a little more cinematic. You got to give more of the emotional core of the movie to characters who can speak.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they still go the way of letting them speak, though.
Yeah.
So, like, it's confused.
But, like, yeah, I get that, and I understand their mentality on making, like, a Tom and Jerry movie, because, like, what else could you do with these characters? But, like, you could at least make the new characters, like, the new stuff they add to make it more of a movie, like, interesting.
Well,
it's just, like, generic. And, like,
William, again, bringing up William, he brought up a really good point while we were watching the movie. He's just like, they're doing this all wrong. What they got to do is they got to have a movie where it seems Tom and Jerry accidentally walked in on it. He's like, this is how he pitched it. He was like, we need a rom-com that just so happens to have Tom and Jerry in it. And I'm like, William, that's the 2021 movie.
Yeah.
He's like, He's like, okay, we need that, but good. And I'm like, yes. Yeah. Which they didn't do that.
You can probably make a Tom and Jerry, you can make a movie out of anything. You need to have, like, enough creativity, enough, like, passion and care for what you're doing. So, like copying all the, like, the tropes of, like, Disney movies or in the new movie, which I haven't seen, but from what I heard, it's like a generic, like, CGI animal movie with Tom and Jerry in it instead of,
it's
like,
bad.
Instead of Alvin Chipmunks or, like, Garfield or whatever. Yeah. Like,
well, so I mean, I'll defend a movie that Tom and Jerry have done before, even though I haven't seen it in a couple of years. But that is Tom and Jerry and the Magic Ring.
Oh yeah,
which is a movie that's a movie I grew up on. That's a Tom and Jerry movie I grew up on, and to be honest, I remember that aging better because, well, one of the big things is Tom and Jerry do not speak. Right. Yes, they have voices that are not the original voices. Like, it's actors, very legendary voice actors, Jeff Bennett and Frank Welker, who do the voices. In fact, that movie, Magic Ring, is why I know who those voice actors are. But they are just doing noises. They're not doing, like, lines. They're not doing dialogue.
Yeah, and what I feel about Frank Welker, he'll definitely do noises. He does noises really good.
And I think the other reason why I think that movie works is because it's not an hour and a half. It is just an hour, I think. And it knows to have, like, it knows not to be too complicated with its story. It's literally just Jerry gets a magic ring stuck on his head, and Tom, who is the pet of the guy who owns the magic ring, is trying to get the ring off of Jerry's head. And they're going all over town to, like, try and get it off the head. And it leads to essentially what probably would be several 8-minute cartoons, like, being lined up into a full-length feature, because each different set they go to is its own little cartoon, its own little vignette where, like, hijinks ensues, slapstick ensues. So, like, I feel like if you're going to do a Tom and Jerry movie, it should essentially be, all the cartoons kind of lined up into one big adventure.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like
there's other Tom and Jerry movies that's also done that, because, like, one of my favorite Tom and Jerry movies is, like, the Nutcracker one. I don't know if you've seen that, but that's one of my favorite Tom and Jerry movies.
No, I don't think so.
It's really good.
Is that one of the ones from, like, the 2010s where they're just like Tom and Jerry in this famous movie? Like,
that's before they got back. I think that's probably the first. That was the first one of its kind where it's like they're in a different setting, or a setting based off of an established property. But
that's weird.
Yeah, it is. Like, Tom and Jerry and Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. That's such a weird movie. I think I didn't see it, but that's just such a weird idea for Tom and Jerry movie. But anyway, like, I agree. Like, I think that movie is solid. I think there's another movie where they went to space, like Tom and Jerry go to Mars. That was pretty good. And then, like, there's another one. And again, I haven't seen these since I was a kid, so I can't, like, I guess say they're so.
But
good.
I can't.
But I remember, like, enjoying those a lot more because I think they probably did what the Magic Ring did. Which
they're,
like,
probably not great, but they can't be any worse than this movie.
Yeah, because
because at least those feel like they're trying to be more true to the characters.
Yeah, and I think the best way to do a Tom and Jerry movie that is true to the characters is essentially just do a bunch of, like, random shorts that tie into each other, but back to back in, like, an hour-long fashion, instead of, like, doing, like, a full like serialized narrative for, like, an hour and a half about boring characters. And, like, again, I think you could do it like that as well, but you have to make the characters interesting, you have to make the story interesting, and they really didn't do that. So
I was not interested in any of these characters. I was more interested in the patrolman voiced by Pig from Barnyard in this movie.
He died recently. Not recently. He actually died a couple years ago. He's also the voice of Moose in Noggin, right?
I don't know. I don't remember. But like, I just know him as Pig from back
Yeah.
in the barn. Well, because we were watching the movie, and again, William brought it up. He's just like, "Who's that patrolman voiced by?" And I listen to the voice, and I'm like, "Dear Jesus!" And I look up on YouTube the "Hi, I'm Dr. Pig," or like, "Hey, folks, viewer mail time again."
Classic,
It's like,
classic movie.
oh my God, such classics! I love
TV
those
show,
movies.
but yes,
I love the TV show too.
TV show is good. Yeah, he died. 2017.
Oh,
Yeah,
that was years ago.
yeah, that was like 6 years ago. Yeah, and he was in a Tom and Jerry movie. He was a patrolman. That's crazy. Yeah, his last movie was Barnyard, so that's his legacy.
Really? His last movie
Was Barnyard.
Well,
yeah,
actually, that kind of makes sense because he was mostly on television, I guess.
yeah, he was. Yeah, last show was Bubble Guppies. He was Mr. Groper. That's his name. That was his name.
I know that's a fish, but
yeah, it's his fish. But,
me and my twisted sense of humor.
Yeah, I mean, I laughed immediately when I read that, so you know.
Mr. Groper, the teacher, huh?
Yeah, Jesus Christ, that is not. I'm glad it's a kid show because I bet kids growing up would have like cringed a little bit when I read that. But yeah, no.
Mr. Groper, I barely know her.
that was a good one, Hal. I bet you're really proud of that one.
Yeah, I am proud of it. Anyway, Tom and Jerry the movie. Speaking of tragedies, yeah, no, I was not convinced by this movie. I was, you know what? I'll be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Am I as angry with it as Doug was in his video? Absolutely not. I think it's just a bad movie. Like,
it's a fine kids movie. Like I think I don't like. I watched this movie disappointed, but I still have fond memories of watching it. And again, I still enjoy two of the songs, and I think that's the only reason why I enjoyed those two songs, because I liked them as a kid, and I still like them now. And I get that they're not good songs. Like again, lyrics are bad, but I like the melody. The melodies of the first song and then the last song. I think they're fine. Like, but as like a movie on a whole, no, not a good Tom and Jerry movie.
I mean, I think you're right. It's not a bad movie for kids, but
There's better movies.
I would rather kids watch the original Tom and Jerry's. And again, I've been rewatching those. They're amazing. I even watched some of Doug's other Tom and Jerry videos, like his "Why is Tom and Jerry Genius" video. That was great. I watched his recent top 11 Tom and Jerry episodes, and I was like, yeah, I love a lot of these episodes, and the ones I haven't seen, I need to watch because he was selling them really well.
Yeah, and he was also selling the Batman series episodes as well, which I'll talk to you about when we get to that segment. But yeah, no, I agree. Tom and Jerry is a fantastic show, and if I ever have kids one day, I would rather them watch the cartoons over the movie. But I wouldn't be opposed to letting them watch the movie, because like they need something from their childhood to be disappointed by when they grow up. Like they can't all have like all the Pixar movies or like all the Disney movies. They need to have something that they could be disappointed by to grow up with and like go ahead.
That's an interesting mindset. You know what?
When you grow up, man, you realize everything in your life wasn't all that great as it used to be. Like there's some like friends you might have had, or some like some situations you might have been in where it could have been like all amazing and like roses and rose-petal glasses or whatever. But then you grow up and think about it, and you're like, that was kind of a crappy situation I was in. Those are some crappy friends, you know? So like, I feel like that's just a part of growing up and growing as a person, you know? Like not everything in your life is going to be amazing as it used to be. So some things, when you think about it, we have more better perspective on it.
You know what? I do agree, because you know what? I'm glad that Doug tore that Thomas and the Magic Railroad.
Yeah.
I'm glad he tore Thomas and the Magic Railroad to shreds, and that I was offended at first, but that I grew to understand that no, he's right. That movie sucks ass.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that it sucks ass. I've grown to love it for a different reason now.
Yeah.
But you know, I can't let, just because I grew up with something doesn't mean that other people did. You know, they're going to have different perspectives.
Exactly.
So, exactly. You know what? I agree. I'm going to show my kids Tom and Jerry the movie, and then when they get to a certain age, I'm going to be like, hey, you fucking idiots. It was actually terrible.
Yeah, exactly. You guys are dumb for liking this piece of trash.
You're
the same with Thomas and Shankin and T. Like, you do the same with that movie.
Oh, that's so brilliant. Oh, that's so good. I'm going to be a great dad.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'm going to show them this episode too.
Yeah.
But it's all part of the plan.
The other thing I wanted to talk about with this movie has to do with it on Letterboxd, actually. I have to complain to Letterboxd directly.
Go ahead.
I know they listen to this show, this very esteemed podcast.
Right,
I know they're listening.
High quality podcast.
Letterboxd, the banner for this movie is wrong. You're incorrect. So the banner.
Oh yeah, I did notice that. Yeah, go ahead. That was good.
The banner for Tom and Jerry the movie is not from the movie. It's from the Greatest Chases DVD that I grew up on. So that's what I grew up on when it came to Tom and Jerry, was that specific DVD of their Greatest Chases. It had stuff like Yankee Doodle Mouse, The Last Orphan, The Little Orphan, Cat Concerto, like all those stuff. Like some really classic episodes. And the cover is of Tom like putting a golf ball over Jerry while he's in a golf hole.
Yeah.
Like that's literally the banner for the movie on Letterboxd, and Letterboxd, you motherfucking hacks, like change it. I can't believe how you guys missed this. Like,
it just
I
goes to show
somebody gets fired for that
the passion and care everyone in the world and pop culture has for the Tom and Jerry movie. Because obviously, if it was a little bit more popular, I think someone would have looked at that and be like, "Oh yeah, we should probably have the right poster here." But no one gives a crap about this movie.
No, I guess not. And also, Letterboxd, stop taking down the based posters while you're listening to me. Like,
don't
fuck's
do that.
sake, stop being the fun police.
Stop being. No one likes that at all. No one likes the fun police.
I'm glad you agree with me.
Yeah, no, I'm obligated to, because I'm not really passionate about Letterboxd. I'm just listening to you. I mean, dude, no, I'll say something too, because I had an argument with somebody that found my review on Letterboxd. Like, I literally just posted it, and like maybe like an hour later, someone saying like, "Oh," because I said I thought the movie got Tom and Jerry right, and he was like, "Oh, like no, they didn't," and here's why. I'm like, okay, cool. And I kept on like explaining my point, because I was like, okay, maybe I need to explain to him why I thought this so he can understand, and I did. And he kept on like saying, "Oh, but if you watch this cartoon, like actually Jerry is getting a lot of conflict in this cartoon, so you're technically not right." I'm like, okay, cool, dude. Technicalities, like, what are you trying to do? Like, what is the point of this conversation?
You made the classic mistake of interacting with Letterboxd comments.
I don't know. I know I shouldn't like entertain that, but like, I'm just curious, because I don't get that a lot. It's like the same thing with the Reddit with my YouTube video, and I think we talked about it in my Discord. But like, how I just like to instigate people, because it's just funny to me. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, trust me, I've fallen victim to the little idiots that prey upon in the Letterboxd comment section. The Letterboxd comment section is a waste of time. It is. It's toxic sludge is what it is. I don't know why Letterboxd won't improve it, but then again, they're too busy taking down the based posters where I want to put Peter Griffin in the holdovers poster. Like, fuck you, Letterboxd.
I mean, Lois, remember the chant? That was really bad. I've been practicing, and it was the right time to pull out.
Hey, Lois, he tried impersonating me on too many movies.
Oh my gosh, Lois, you saw the black guy just tried to impersonate me on too many movies. You saw that? That was really bad. I'm gonna stop.
Peter,
get in the cat. That was my Lois.
Freddy Fazbear.
Freddy Fazbear, what are you doing here? All right. Well, that's the last one.
Is there anything else we have to say about Tom and Jerry the movie?
Apparently? I don't think so. I wrote some things down. Let me see if I forgot to say anything. I did have a connection between this movie and Batman, but I'll wait until we get to Batman, and I'll blow your mind.
Okay.
This is just not a great movie. Can't really recommend it to anyone unless you're like a little kid.
Here's my question to you: would you ever own this?
That's actually a great question, because I do have some fond childhood memories of this, and I probably do own this movie somewhere. But like, I think all of our childhood DVDs are just like in the stores or somewhere, so I would probably have to rebuy it again. But I honestly, unironically, I would probably get this movie just for the nostalgia factor of it.
Interesting.
And only because I have the nostalgia factor of it. Yeah, I know, because you don't have nostalgia for it, and it's also like a really bad representation of like one of the most like iconic characters of the time. So.
I would rather have one of the various like collections of the original cartoons on DVD, which I think I have some of those. I'd probably rather even have the Magic Ring on DVD. I think I used to, but I think we got rid of that like years ago, because I probably wore out the disc.
Didn't you do a review on it on the podcast, the Magic Ring?
Did I? I don't think so.
I don't know. I might be like, that might have been an alternate time. I might have been like a embarrassing Mandela effect that I just did myself. I was
gonna say, I mean, the Magic Ring. Someday I'd like to do the Magic Ring on the podcast,
for sure.
But I don't think it's no, it has not happened yet.
Okay, cool. Okay,
not yet, Minion, not yet.
Not yet. I can't do his voice, Will Ferrell, funny blue guy. But I would probably for sure own it only for the nostalgia factor, but not because I actually like like this movie just because I did at one point in my life.
Sure.
Also for my kids. For my kids.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, so why don't you make that connection to Batman then, since we're moving on to the next movie?
So, yeah, it's just about the story, which I wanted to I guess talk about later on, but I guess we can talk about now. So, both Mask of Phantasm and Tom and Jerry have a rich orphan girl, and the orphan girl is a new character that was never introduced in the original series that the movie is based off of, and that orphan girl has a locket. They both have that
point.
Yeah,
wow.
They both have that connection. Yeah.
All right, then that means Tom and Jerry is better than Batman: Mask of the Phantasm. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Yeah, obviously. Cue the music right here.
No, I'm kidding. Of course not. But yes, we're talking about Batman: Mask of the Phantasm as our second movie, because guess what? I have it on 4K.
Oh my god. Ooh, 4K.
Yeah.
Did they use AI to upscale it, or did they actually
no,
painstakingly?
I don't think so. I don't know, actually. That's a good point. It looked fine. It looked fine.
Yeah.
Like when I watched it on TV, I watched it on my TV, it looked great. It did not look like, I have seen those what was it, like True Lies, like upscaled, like
Yeah.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
And all smart TV. I watched it on my phone this time. I think I watched it on my TV last year because I think I was just been watching all the Batman animated series stuff. But the TVs automatically will just try to update the frame from like 30 to 60 for anything that you're watching. And it really like hurts like anything that's animated. It looks kind of cool sometimes, but you can see that it's artificially they're artificially trying to upscale the frames from 30 to 60 with anything animated. It's kind of weird, but.
Look, sometimes some movies work better looking older, but who am I to judge? Anyway, I have this movie on 4K, and, well, we're here to talk about it. So, Batman, Mask of the Phantasm. Perry, what'd you think?
Yeah, this is an absolute masterpiece of a movie. I think this is also just a perfect TV show adaptation movie. So, I just recently watched the Simpsons movie. I think me and Hal, we were talking about Simpsons a little bit earlier this week. And this is after I was been watching some of the original shows. And then we watched the movie. And I actually watched the movie before I became a Simpsons fan. And I liked it as a kid, but there were a lot of things I missed with like some of the jokes, some of the inside jokes. And I rewatched it again. And I was like, oh, they didn't like reference this character and this character. And you get that with a lot of TV adaptation movies. You get that with SpongeBob. You get that with trying to think of anyone else. Bob's Burgers, even like that just came recently. But with this movie, with the Batman with Batman: Mask of Phantasm, you can watch this without knowing anything about Batman, without knowing anything about the animated series, and still enjoy it fully and completely. Because you haven't seen Batman animated series, right? That's like
I have seen 0 episodes of Batman, the
which is a
series.
crime. You should definitely watch some of the episodes, but you can still watch this movie without any concept of what the animated series is or the character of Batman is, and you will still enjoy it because that's how good of a movie this is. Because it not only is a fantastic movie, it's also a really good Batman origin story, and it's actually a better Batman origin story than Batman Begins itself, in my opinion. I think I think it does Batman's origin story because it ties it so well into like the main plot, the narrative. Because like you get this, I mean, if you know the plot of the movie. I guess we're gonna spoil it, but you have this this new character. I think he's just a phantom or phantasm, whatever.
Phantasm.
Phantasm, yeah, and they, they're
nice save there.
she, they, whatever. They're one of their pronouns.
Good for them.
Their whole purpose is they're basically like a mirror version of Batman, where they're killing off these gangsters that affected them's past. And it's like
the Phantasm is Andrea. Spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers. Yeah, I guess we're just going to say it. But yeah, and it parallels Batman because Batman's whole purpose, his whole thing is like he's a one-man army on crime. Like his whole purpose, his whole personality is I'm trying to cleanse Gotham of crime. And that's the same thing that the Phantasm is doing, but instead of like, having morality, she's just killing the people that hurt her family. And I think that's a very interesting way of like mirroring Batman. And also like they explore Batman's purpose of being a one-man army by just flat out telling his origin story and flat out like tying in the Phantasm, Andrea and Bruce's story together in like the flashbacks that tell off his early days of being Batman. So like I think that's just a genius way of telling the story while also keeping it new and fresh. And like I think it is technically set in the Batman the animated series timeline. Like, even if you watch the series in order, I think this is set between the first and second season of the show. So like it still works as like a continuation of the series while also giving you an origin story of this version of Batman. Because I don't think we got an origin story of this version of Batman in the animated series itself. We got like some certain like hints of his past and stuff like that, but we did not get like a full-on origin story like this movie did. So perfect TV adaptation movie that anyone like a fan of Batman, fan of the animated series or not can enjoy. But I'll let you have any other dots besides that?
Well, so yeah, I've only ever seen this movie with the perspective of not having seen the show and just seeing it as one of those Batman movies that people love to claim as like the secret best Batman movie.
It is.
Which I think it's been years. It's been enough time now that we can just say it's one of the best Batman movies. We don't have to act like it's a secret. Like,
it's not a secret.
No, it's not a secret. People who have seen this movie love this movie. I think we can all agree it's a very good movie. And yeah, no, I think this is definitely one of the best Batman movies. This is definitely one of my personal favorite Batman movies. I mean, I have varying opinions on when it comes to Batman. I'm not a Batman purist. I'm always willing to look at... I'm not a comic purist, I should say, because I feel like when people look at movies like The Dark Knight in '89, they're kind of like, oh, you know, this isn't that accurate to the comics. And it's just like, yeah, okay, I get that. Because I still like those movies, regardless of whether they're accurate to the comics.
Right.
But I feel like this is that movie that kind of gets everything right when it comes to Batman. And I like that, yes, it is a bit of an origin story, but that's not the focus. That's the thing with this movie. It balances things so well that it's not one thing. And because like, you know, everybody's always talking about like, oh, how deep and mature the themes of this movie are. And it's like, yes, that is very commendable for this movie. But I think we also need to, you know, talk about everything on the surface. And that is, it's a really good mystery. It's really well animated. It's really well voice acted. The music is just phenomenal. Like, it's just an all-around great film. Like, regardless of whether it's animated, regardless if it's an adaptation of a TV show, like looking at it in a vacuum, like what I've done for years, every time I've rewatched it, seeing it in a vacuum, I can say it is a really, really good film.
Yeah, and you can't. That's the thing though. Like you said, like despite it being like a TV show adaptation, you can't really say that about most TV show adaptations. It's like going back to The Simpsons and Bob's Burgers. I became fans of both those shows through those movies, but I can't say like they're. I mean, they're good movies, but like without being a fan of the show or with being a fan of the show, you can't really say they're good movies on their own. Like they have aspects of it that's either just fan service or just trying to get people into the series that they're watching. Whereas with this show, and I guess this is a testament to you because you have not seen the animated series. This isn't really a gateway into the show. It's just focused on being a good movie, and like that is a very hard way. That's a hard thing to do for a TV show movie, especially a kids TV show movie, and like just a TV show movie because like that's pretty much the point of most TV show movies. Is the point of them is to get more people into your series or to satisfy the fans that already are fans of the series with something that's satisfying in the cinematic and like pretty much a longer episode of that series that you like.
But I feel like why this movie gets away with that is because Batman was a character before the animated series.
That's also true.
So you can have this being its own movie. Like, there's about 1 million other Batman movies. So, like, that's not out of the ordinary. There's only one Simpsons movie. There's only one Bob's Burgers movie.
Right.
But yes, that is because those movies are made to... I mean, yeah, I guess they're kind of gateways into the show, but also to, like, just give the show that kind of cinematic oomph. Whereas, we've talked about the Bob's Burgers movie on this podcast, and I like that movie.
Yeah,
I'm not huge into Bob's Burgers, but...
It's a great
from
show.
what little I've seen
really
of
good.
The show, I mean, I like the show from what I've seen. I just haven't binged it like I have The Simpsons or The Sopranos.
Right.
Like, I still really get something out of the show because I know these characters well enough that the way they act in the movie is very similar to how they act in the show.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very good example of like, you know, being for general fans and also just being for people who are not that familiar with it.
Right.
But yes, I agree. I think Phantasm does that a step further, but that's because it's just in its own ballpark other than Bob's Burgers. Like, it's just kind of its own thing.
Yeah. And like, that is unfair. It is a little bit of an unfair comparison, to be honest, because like The Simpsons only is known for, outside the movie, it's only known for most popularly the show, because like, that's literally what, you know, put it on the map. Same thing with Bob's Burgers. I'm sure there's there's Simpsons comics. I know there's Simpsons video games. I know there's Simpsons.
There are Simpsons comics. I've read.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm not surprised.
Some of them are pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool.
Some of them are pretty good. I really like this one comic that's of like, it's basically a Radioactive Man comic within that comic, and it's like this. It's like a parody of classic era like comic books. It's really something. It's really something cool.
Yeah.
But
like this, like you said, this has the added advantage of being based off of one of the most popular characters of all fiction that didn't have to have a TV show to make it popular.
You're right, though. This is definitely set in the same universe as the specific animated series,
right?
But again, I've seen it in a vacuum, so like, whether or not I've seen the show, I still get something out of this movie. Yeah.
There's like one reference you probably won't get if you watch the show, and that's Detective Bollock, who only shows up in the movie for like 2 frames. He's like the sweaty cop that's like upset when Bruce escapes with Andrea. I don't think that's a very specific shot. But like him and Batman have like this like love-hate relationship with each other. Like he hates Batman. He thinks he's a loose cannon. He thinks he's he's a vigilante. Like the police cops tend to not like vigilantes. And
then, I mean,
you don't need to know who that is to understand.
I'm familiar with sweaty cops being in Batman movies.
Exactly.
The one guy in Batman Begins with the curly hair, and then there was that one guy in Batman '89 who was played by the guy who played Porkins in the original Star Wars.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, fun fact. I feel like. I feel like we get that kind of characterization of like he's a loose cannon out of Arthur Reeves.
Yeah, someone actually says he's a loose cannon in the movie, and yeah, that I think Jim Gordon is the only cop that actually genuinely likes Batman in the animated series. I think everyone kind of comes around to him as the show progresses, but like I don't think the show really like it doesn't really. It's more episodic in terms of its storytelling. It's so connected to the universe. People still remember things that happened in previous episodes and newer episodes, but like it's not like, you know, you have to watch one episode after the other to really understand what's going on, like some newer superhero shows, even some newer like shows in general. So you can pretty much watch it in order, like I guess the Clone Wars. It's the only animated cartoon that comes to mind that does that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so yeah, but again, I'm still familiar enough with Batman as a concept that I can still follow along. Like I know who Jim Gordon is.
Right.
I'm probably more likely. I remember him more likely in like movies like The Batman, where he's played by Jeffrey Wright, or Gary Oldman's portrayal. Like I like those portrayals more because. But to be fair, this isn't really a movie that concerns Jim Gordon as a character, but he's still there because. Well, it's Batman.
I feel like Gary Oldman's interpretation of Jim Gordon is like the first interpretation of Jim Gordon that was written as a fully developed character. Because Jim Gordon, like the 1989 Batman movie, is barely in it. Like he's barely a character. I think he's retiring in that movie, right?
I don't remember. Well, because like he was in the other Batman movies. Like he was in the other Burton Schumacher movies. Like that actor. Like he and Michael Goff, the Alfred character, were like the only consistent actors throughout all 4 movies.
Yeah.
Which
they were barely
which
in
is
it,
funny
right?
because they were they were different Batmans, but they still had the same Alfred and the same Commissioner Gordon. So they tried to be like, oh, this is the same universe. It's like
no, I don't know about that. Mr. Burton might have a word with you.
Yeah, exactly. So but yes, you're right. Like I feel like, but even with these characters.
And I was finished my thought. I was going to say Gary Oldman's interpretation of Jim Gordon made Jim Gordon a lot more popular of a character. I didn't get more Batman lore after the Dark Knight or Batman Begins version of the character became popular. That was my thought. That's probably why Jim Gordon isn't as interesting as he was as he could have been in this movie.
Again, he's just kind of there. But again, the movie's not really about him. I feel like the characters we do get focused on are focused. Like, that's the thing. It's like,
Yeah.
even though we don't get all these characters focused on, the ones that do get focused on are really good.
Right.
And so then the ones who don't, like, again, Jim Gordon's not focused on, but I know who he is, so I don't really need to know more about him. Like, what he plays his role well is what I'll say.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the actual characters in this movie, like Bruce Wayne and Andrea.
Yeah. I thought it was really interesting because I actually forgot that they made this choice, even though I watched the movie a year ago. But in my recent viewing, I like that Bruce Wayne gets rejected by Andrea, and that propels him to become Batman. I kind of thought, because I think everyone thought when they were doing this, they found out they were doing the Batman origin story, and he had this love interest that could have prevented him from being Batman, and obviously that didn't happen, was that he was going to reject Andrea to become Batman to pursue that. And you kind of get hints of that, because remember in like the scene where Bruce stops this robbery from happening with the motorcycle gang, and he yells at Andrea for like distracting him or something like that. I think it would be fair to think he would have rejected Andrea just to pursue his vendetta of becoming Batman. But I think it's interesting that Andrea rejects him, which I think that makes it more tragic, because like it wasn't really Bruce's choice to become Batman. Like he had that, iconic scene of him talking to his parents in the rain about saying like, I didn't expect to be happy when I thought of this plan of being Batman. And like he pretty much made his decision to stop being Batman and to just be happy. And the fact that he got rejected kind of like cemented the fact that this is more of a tragic like origin story for him, because like he didn't become Batman because he wanted to anymore. He became Batman because he had nothing else to do, or he had no other outlet.
It leads to that like amazing shot where like it's him like getting his costume on for the first time.
Yeah,
and he puts the mask on, and Alfred's horrified by it.
Yes,
like, yeah, no, that's a
scene.
That's a great scene right there.
Yeah,
great shot,
and it's stemmed from like heartbreak. Yeah,
and it's all done visually. Like, you don't actually see him in a full costume. Like, you just see shadows. And the only bit of dialogue you get is Alfred going, My God.
Yes.
Yeah, that's all you get.
So that's a great scene, dude. Like, probably one of the best Batman moments in his entire lineage, if I have to.
It's so good, yeah.
It's really good.
Again, like, that's the thing with this movie. It knows what to show. It knows what it wants to do with this character. It doesn't do so in any pretentious way. Like, I feel this all feels genuine to me.
Yeah, like it's not like, and I love the Dark Knight. Dark Knight is an amazing movie. It is my favorite Batman movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. But it is a little pretentious in like its themes and like
I don't think it's pretentious.
Like it's like
I think it's
I'm not the hero that Gotham deserves, but I was the one that it needs or whatever. Like I mean that's cool. That's a cool line. That's a badass line in context of the movie. But out of context, it's kind of like. Okay, like this is just like a tropey, like serious superhero movie. But like with like if you watch that scene we just talked about where Batman is suiting up for the first time in this movie, I think out of context that so works as well as it does in context. This works in context better. But like, and again, I say that out of love for the Dark Knight. I love the Dark Knight.
I mean, any issues I have with the Dark Knight is not for the fault of the movie. It's the fault of culture kind of overplaying up the movie, like just ruining the movie essentially.
Yeah, which
like
that was the movie being so popular.
It was inevitable though. Like it's not the fault of anybody involved.
No.
It's the fault
Fantastic
of the culture
movie.
Afterwards.
Yeah,
like that's what it is.
Yeah.
Whereas, I feel like this movie is kind of safe from that, though.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think, because, again, it's so simplistic, you know, like it's not trying to overcomplicate things. It's not trying to explain everything. A lot of it is visually and in character motive. Like, let's talk about like the very first fight scene in the movie,
right,
where Batman beats up all those gangsters. He does so silently. He does so without talking, without gloating. He does so like just he's doing so in a way where you feel like he knows what he's doing. Like he's
been doing this for a while. Yeah.
And then combat that with one of the early flashbacks where like he goes on his first crusade and he's like yelling. He's just like on your knees, like
on your stomach,
spread. Yeah. And then like after he's beat everybody up, he goes, yes. He does like such a lame thing. And you're just like, oh, this is like, what a geek, what a dork.
Yeah,
but I love that because it just shows the difference in where he's at in life,
Yeah,
and
I
where
like
he's
that
at
too.
later on.
Yeah,
like he's finally tuned his craft of beating the shit out of hired goons.
And that's something we don't really see that much in like most modern interpretations of Batman. We don't really see like his first time being Batman that much. Like I think Batman Begins, we see it in Batman Begins, but it's a little bit too perfect. Like, you know, it is perfect. Like his first time being Batman, like everything goes perfectly. Like he scares the shit out of like all the people
his first time being Batman, yes, but not his first time when he's like actually trying to like get shit done. Like when he's in that like dark garb and like the ski mask.
Yeah.
Like,
okay. Yeah.
But I agree though, because I feel like at that point in the movie, it's just like, all right, we kind of have to like
move it along.
This going.
Yeah.
But like even then, like, you know, those movies still have the idea of like he's still improving his costume throughout those movies. That's why he doesn't get like the whole like moving his neck thing until The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just feel it is, but I feel like there's little differences though. That's the thing is like the movies are going for different things.
That's true. Yeah, that's fair. Where would you?
Go ahead.
Wait, I was just saying, where would you rank the Batman movies, including this one, just out of curiosity?
I'm still very much a fan of The Dark Knight. I think The Dark Knight was a very special movie for me. Like I do remember when I first watched it, and like within like the first few minutes, I'm like, all right, I'm in for something special.
Yeah.
And every time I've watched it since then, that feeling still remains the same. I would probably say this is my second favorite, Mask of the Phantasm. And I would probably put... I'm debating where I would put Batman Begins and Batman 89, because I feel like... Because I've talked about Batman 89 on the podcast. We talked about it with Damison when we did The Flash, because, well, that's the movie that The Flash wanted us to watch.
Right.
Right. And guess what? It was better than The Flash. Who knew?
Oh, wow. What a world, right?
But I still really like Batman 89.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
I feel like because, you know, the older generation who praised it for years is kind of being silenced out by the younger generation who didn't grow up with it. So they're just like, this is not accurate to the comics. And it's like, okay, we get it. I still find fondness in the original 89 film.
Yeah, it's a solid movie. Yeah.
But I did grow up with the Nolan movies, and I feel like I appreciate more in this movie. So I would definitely say Phantasm would probably be my second favorite Batman movie. I need to rewatch them all again, but
yeah, I do too.
That's like far off. I am way too busy to do that at the moment. But I'm glad we were able to watch this. For this episode.
No, for sure. I would say Dark Knight's definitely my favorite. It goes between this and The Batman for second place.
That's a good point. Well, I'd probably put that under 89. I really like the Batman, but
Batman's fantastic.
I would not say that's one of my favorites.
That's completely understandable.
It's like 4 or 5, you know, like 4 or 5 out of like how many other Batman movies out there. Like I think that's still pretty good.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just kidding. Batman and Robin is my number 1.
Oh yeah, no. I forgot
Stay
about that.
cool, bird boy.
Oh god, Bat credit card.
A Bat credit card.
Bat credit card.
Well, so there's so much to talk about. Can we talk about the Joker?
For sure. Oh my god.
Played by Luke Skywalker.
Yes, that's his only name. Like Luke Skywalker is his only name. The only name for that actor. Yeah.
Mark Hamill. He played the Joker, and
yes.
Oh my god, Joker in this movie, so much fun.
Yes.
I do find it a little weird that we get to see him out of makeup. Maybe it's because I'm very much a fan of The Dark Knight, and that was kind of my official introduction into the Joker. That like, I feel like knowing about Joker when he's not Joker is weird to me, but I'll be completely honest. I think what this movie does with that, I like it. Like, I like that he's like this underling that you don't see, and then like later on, once
suits
like
his character, like
within the context of this movie, I'm fine with him being like this underling that we see out of his makeup. Like we know what he was like back in the day.
It just showcases, like in the context of the series itself, it showcases why he's such a criminal mastermind, because he had that experience. Like back when Batman was still figuring himself out and figuring out what kind of hero he wanted to be, Joker was already like, you know, being like an intern, interning with these mob bosses and getting that experience. That like back then when Batman was so in his early days. So now that So when we see him now, like, he's pretty much like this criminal mastermind and like knows what he's doing, and like it just kind of makes sense for his character that he is an underling. And I know other stories.
Just so funny. I love this interpretation of
his
Joker.
whole bit with like the wife, like, oh, isn't that the way? Like, you get in the mood and company comes over. That's so funny. You remember that?
Don't mind my home security system. Can't be too careful with all those weirdos around.
Right. Oh my god. Don't touch me. I don't know where you've been.
Yeah. Well, so that's actually a point I wanted. That's actually a part I wanted to bring up. Is that I like how this Joker is really funny. Like, I had a smile the whole time I was watching it because I just thought he was the funniest thing. Yeah. But there is that point. Yes, this is the scene where Sal Valestra, played by Abe Vigoda, which. What? Abe Vigoda in an animated Batman film? That's insane. What? But anyway, he goes to Joker and he like, puts his hands on him and he's just like, you idiot, like, I'm fucking next. And then like that in that moment, I love this part in the movie because like the animation on Joker is so interesting because like he kind of like tenses up, like he's getting angry, like genuinely angry, and he's just like, don't touch me, Sal. And then when he realizes like he got a little angry there, he goes, I don't know where you've been. So like he kind of rolls it back and turns it into a joke. Yeah. And I love that because that just shows you how good this Joker is. He's both really intimidating and terrifying, but he's also really funny. And I feel like you need that balance when it comes to Joker.
Yeah, Mark Hamill is like, he's a genius.
Oh, and the voice acting is so good.
Mark Joker, Hamill, he's the best Joker. Like, there's not a better Joker out there. Like, I mean, Heath Ledger is very close. And Heath Ledger also has that same balance of being funny and being serious, but Heath Ledger's Joker is a little more twisted. I've never really
been one to like have a favorite Batman or have a favorite Joker. Like, I have a favorite movie, but I don't think I would say, like, I don't really know if I would say Christian Bale's my favorite Batman. He's up there, but I don't think he's not my definitive Batman. No. Like, same thing. Like, I really like Mark Hamill's Joker. I really like Heath Ledger's Joker. I can't really pick a favorite though.
That's fair.
But that's just me. Like, again, I've never been like a huge Batman aficionado. Like, I've known of Batman over the years, but again, my introduction to the Batman was the Nolan trilogy when I watched it when I was like 16, I think. So like,
oh wow, you're that young or old?
Yeah, like, but again, I was aware of Batman before. So like, and I knew the movies that I was getting into when I first watched them. Like, I knew they were very famous portrayals of the characters. So like again, like, I've never been unaware of who Batman is.
Right, it's just it's kind of hard to avoid Batman.
Yeah, I just never really got into Batman until I started watching the Nolan movies, and then eventually moved on to the Burton movies. Like, then like my adventures into who Batman, like actually figuring out who this character was, that's when it began. Yeah,
that's interesting. Okay, yeah. I guess it's for conversation. Who was the earliest superhero you became a fan of?
Superman. Easily.
Okay, that's interesting. I think mine was probably Spider-Man and Batman. Because I grew up with, I think I watched the Nolan and Tim Burton movies around the same time when I was like 8 or 9, maybe a little bit younger, because my dad introduced me to Batman. And like also at the same time that Batman, The Brave and the Bold came out, which is, I don't know if you watched that, but that was a really popular.
No, I remember that cartoon. Show. I think I watched it occasionally when it was on Cartoon Network.
But,
but again, good. Like, even though I was like a huge Superman fan, I still knew who Batman was. I still knew who Spider-Man was because, the Raimi trilogy was huge.
Raimi trilogy,
early 2000s.
Another thing you couldn't avoid when that was out,
And like, but even then, like, even though I was a fan of Superman, I was a fan of Superman through watching like the old Justice League cartoon from the 70s because I had a VHS of that. Right. Or like I watched the old Fleischer cartoons. Like, I watched those at a very young age. So like that was my introduction to Superman. But like, I just really loved the logo as a kid. Like, I thought that was like really cool. Like the fucking S, it's like this weird triangle, and then you get like the mixture of like the red and the yellow and the blue shirt. Like, that to me was an amazing combination of colors and shapes. Like, I just thought that was the coolest thing. For sure. Yeah, very iconic. Yeah. So, but it wasn't until years later where I started to really kind of formulate where I really started to formulate like what I actually want to get out of these characters and their movies and stuff like that. Like, that didn't come until way later.
Right. Yeah.
So,
and I feel
again, like I feel like Mask of the Phantasm, again, is one of those where I knew what I was getting into when I finally watched it. And when I finally watched it, I was like, oh yeah, this is as good as it gets. And then, then as time went on, I watched it again and again. I think this is like my second or third time watching it officially. Like,
it's probably my third time as well, because I think I watched it as a kid.
Really good.
But I didn't really get it. Because, like, I don't think I was a huge fan of the animated series when I was younger. And I know it had reruns on the Hub when I was, like, 11, when I was a little bit older, old enough to watch the animated series. But I think they had a marathon of, like, all the animated series cartoon or episodes, including the movie. And I watched it, and I was just kind of, like, confused by, like, the pacing and, like, the plot. Because it is a very complicated plot for a kid's movie. Like, I mean, you can still watch it as a kid, but, like, I don't think you get as much out of it as an adult, and that's one of the things that I kind of disagree with you on in the Letterboxd review, at least for me. Maybe I was a dumb kid. I don't know. You said that this movie was good for all ages. I
feel like it is, because like I feel like I could have watched this as a kid and still get something out of it. I wouldn't have understood it, but I still would have connected with it because it is that Batman iconography.
Yeah, and Batman was cool. I think as a kid you would like latch on to Batman being like a badass and like the Joker being the Joker and all that stuff. Yeah. But that's only like really like maybe 25% of the movie, because I think most of it is the mystery, most of it is the dialogue and like the origin story of Batman before he became Batman. And like I think that probably turned me off as a kid, and I didn't really like enjoy it as much. Whereas now I see the origin story of Batman, I'm like, oh, that's kind of relatable because he's having relationship issues. It's probably the most relatable Batman or Bruce Wayne's ever been, because you think of Bruce Wayne, he's like this billionaire playboy genius who's really handsome and like can get all the ladies and everything goes right for him. But then he gets to his love of his life essentially, and he fumbles the bag with that. And that's kind of relatable. I don't think I've ever seen Bruce Wayne fumble the bag on any girl.
But I feel like even though it has adult issues, I feel like even kids, even though they don't pick up on those adult issues, they can still get something out of it. Like when I think of something like The Incredibles, that's a movie I watched as a kid and I loved because I connected with the superhero stuff. But now that I'm older, I connect way more with the adult stuff. And there's a lot of adult stuff in that movie, but still, I'm still able to connect with it because, but what I meant to say is I still connected it with it as a kid because there was that really cool animation, there was the action, there was all this fun stuff. Like it was really funny and quotable. Like it still had enough because, The Incredibles is a good movie first before it's a good kids movie.
Right.
So like, and I feel like this is the same way. Like you'd be surprised. Like, again, as a kid, I definitely did not there's this thing I realized as a kid, I did not understand plot or story. Like I just watched these movies and I just assumed events just kind of unfolded. Like it didn't occur to me that like characters did things for a reason. Right. It's kind of hard to explain.
No, I get that. I
definitely did not have the concept of story or plot when I watched movies. I
let the Tom and Jerry movie as a kid, so like I totally understand where you're coming from.
It's a good point. Maybe this is why we love those movies, because we didn't understand plot, and then years later we're just like, what the fuck is this?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I feel like that's why I would say as a kid, I feel like kids would still connect with this because there is still that Batman iconography that they connect with. So
I agree, but
I can understand. But I can understand where you're coming from because I mean you have the experience of watching it as a kid and you didn't connect with it. So I understand that's not for everybody.
I thought Batman was cool. This is probably the best Batman's ever looked at this point in animated form. So like I definitely like the Batman. I could see kids at the time this movie came out liking the Batman stuff and liking the Joker stuff and connecting with that. But again, I just don't think there was enough of it, and that's fine. Like I don't think it's an issue. It's just as a kids movie, I don't think it would connect as well with kids as it does with adults. There's also other things. I think the Nostalgia Critic also like pointed out in his review of this movie. Like there's also like like very dismissive of disbelief-esque things or cartoony things, but like especially with the last act with Joker and Batman fighting. Like Batman fights like these toy helicopters, these toy cars, stuff like that, which is very much you can't really get away with that in like a live action Batman movie. So I get like that aspect of it being a kids movie is that makes sense. Like because they can like be a little zany because it's a cartoon with a Batman movie and still have it be serious for adults. Like that's fine. But I think like there's a little bit more adult themes and adult like ideas or things that adults can latch onto more so than kids can in this movie. And like, and that's just my general opinion. Like, I'm not saying kids can't enjoy this. I just don't think kids would get a lot out of it like adults would. Whereas with The Incredibles, I think there's a lot in that movie that kids can latch on to. Like you said, like the quotable moments, the beautiful animation, the action scenes, the kids, like the kids are very relatable in that movie. Even though they're not in the movie for that long, they're still very relatable. And I feel like that's a movie that you can enjoy both as a kid and as an adult better than this movie. But
I feel like it depends on what a kid is going to get, because you know what? I'll be honest. I was recently rewatching that Mask of the Phantasm video that Nostalgia Critic did. And I did realize I'm not, and this is something that has always kind of bothered me, that when he's just like, oh, kids can enjoy this and adults can enjoy this. And it's just like, well, I don't know about that. Like, because I remember when he was, this always stuck with me, the way he described something like The Mask. I think it was on his Son of the Mask review. Great review, all things considered. But when he was talking about the original movie, he said something like, you know, oh, kids can enjoy the Mask character and adults can enjoy the Stanley Ipkiss straight man stuff. And I'm like, I never connected with that, even as an adult. Like, well, I do, but that's not the point of why I love the movie. I still love the Mask character, even as an adult. Like, I just think it's kind of a weird thing for us to like kind of categorize what a kid can enjoy and what an adult can enjoy. Because I feel like that's why I'm not like a fan of that. I feel like anybody can connect with anything. Again, like you said, you didn't connect with this movie as a kid as much as you do now, but you know, I feel like there are kids out there who probably would connect with it.
And again, I was a dumb kid. I like the Tom and Jerry movie.
Right, right.
So I'm sure there's probably smarter kids out there that could probably appreciate it, even if they don't appreciate the adult things that we appreciate now.
I don't often like putting kids in a camp and putting adults in a camp.
That's fair. That's fair.
But I mean, sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. It's a whole other thing. It's a whole like different way of trying to make sense of how you want to like look at movies and stuff like that. So I totally get why people do that though.
Yeah. And it's like, that's kind of like the beauty of kids movies. Cause like, you got the one camp of people who watch these kids movies as kids and then grow up and, get more out of it as adults. And then they become like Schaefer-less or like, Alpha J or all these like YouTubers or whatever that make these like detailed reviews of like things they grew up with as kids. And then you have the adults who are dragged into these movies with their kids and you know, getting more out of it, or not getting bored by watching them, and like I guess watching reviews online and like getting a gauge on like, should I watch the movie with the kid if I'm gonna be bored or whatever. So you have those two camps of like viewing kids movies, like people who actually grew up with the kids movies and are talking about it as adults, and adults who viewing the first time as adults and getting something out of it that kids probably wouldn't get out of it, if that makes sense. So it's always like that that balancing act that kids movies have to have, like, you know, have enough in here for kids to enjoy, but also make sure that the adults have something to do while they're watching this, entertaining their kids. And then like now we're getting to this modern age of kids movies where like we're looking back at kids movies that were probably really good, but we can get more out of it now because we have that nostalgia for it, and now we get more out of it because we're adults, we have more experience. So like I think this is an interesting like parallel that we have with kids movies now. So like, that's always gonna be like a point of conversation in my opinion.
But I also feel like when it comes to judging kids movies, we have this idea in our head that like, you know, we can't judge them too harshly, and I've never liked that idea.
Yeah, I never let that either.
Because it's just like, okay, like are we treating kids like are we treating kids as smart, or are we treating them as dumb? Like, you know, which is it? Like, I feel like it always changes because people are just like, oh, we have this really well-made animated film meant for children, but like anybody can enjoy it. But then we also have this crappy movie, and it's like, oh, it was made for kids, it doesn't matter. It's like, well, like, huh? Like, it can't be both. I'm of the opinion, you know, I'm of the opinion that you can judge a movie however you want to judge it, but like, you know, just don't be surprised when I don't like something intended for babies. Like, you know?
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Like, why? Like, I get that each movie should be judged equally, but then you have to step back and be like, okay, who was the intended audience, and why am I? Is my enjoyment of this movie because the intended audience isn't me? Because like you got movies like Trolls, which isn't a bad movie. Like I haven't finished it, but like it's not a bad movie because I had to watch my nephew. Like my nephew loves Trolls, but like it's
not a bad movie. But I haven't finished it.
I haven't finished it, but I mean I'm watching with my nephew, and I'm like, this isn't bad. Like, I'm not like. There's nothing like popping out at me that's saying that this movie is bad, but it's also not for me because the dialogue is very much like for kids, and like the stakes are very much for kids. So it's like you can still like it's like why you don't have to like torture yourself and be like, oh, this is the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. But it's like Barney's Playtime or whatever. Like, of course that's going to be a movie that you like because it's for kids, you know. So like, but I also get the argument that kids movies shouldn't have the excuse of being bad,
right?
Just because they're kids movies. I also get that argument. So like, I feel like you have to look at the intended audience and like the quality of the movie, like what the purpose of the movie was, and figure out, okay, like is the movie bad because there's actual problems with it, or is it bad because it's the audience audience for it is for kids?
Well, that's why I always look at movies in a vacuum. I'm always like, okay, I don't care who the intended audience is. I'm trying to explain what I got out of this movie. So yeah,
and you can do
like
that,
Trolls. I got literally 0 things out of that movie. Whereas Batman Mask of the Phantasm, I got many things out of it.
Right, exactly. So, yeah.
Well, can I talk about this comic book that came with the movie?
Yeah, I'm very curious about this.
So, Best Buy, remember those motherfuckers that discontinued their physical media section.
You don't like them.
Well, so I bought, the past couple of weeks, I've actually frequented Best Buy the past couple months than I ever have in my entire life. Just because they were getting rid of their physical media section. I'm like, I gotta see what they have then. And I've gotten a couple of things from them. I got the first 6 the original Star Trek movies. On
my
4K.
Dad loves Star Trek. He's
dude, I love those movies. Well, I don't love all of them, but
I've heard not all of them are bangers, but
but
the even ones are. The even ones are.
They can't. Well, I like 1 and 3. I wouldn't even really say the odd ones are bad.
Okay.
5 wasn't good at all, but I kind of love 5 for how bad it was. But that's for a different conversation.
That's a different conversation. Correct.
Anyway, so Best Buy, they had Batman Mask of the Phantasm on 4K. I was like, hell yeah, brother, I'm totally getting that. And well, wouldn't you know, it comes with this nifty comic book adaptation of the movie, which is kind of cool. I thought, wow, Batman, the Mask of the Phantasm in a comic book, which is kind of funny because, Batman started in comics. And so the fact that this movie that was its own original movie then got its own adaptation back into comic book form, it's just kind of coming full circle.
Right.
So I was like, you know what, this sounds cool. Let me read this comic book. Oh, it's terrible. Well, no, that's mean. So it's not a terrible comic book. The art style's pretty nice. It's obviously a lot simpler looking than the movie.
Right.
And the writing is still good. Relatively. So here's my problem with this comic book. There's a reason the story for the Mask of the Phantasm was meant to be a movie, because it was written with the explicit purpose of being a movie.
Correct. That makes sense to me.
Whereas the comic is just taking the dialogue of the movie, plastering it on essentially screenshots from the original movie.
Ooh, we love that. We love that.
Calling it a day.
That is amazing. I love that so much.
The pacing in this book, and maybe that's on me, because reading, I just get so much less.
So it's basically like a glorified, those movie tie-in books that come out to promote the movie. Like for anime TV movies, anime movies. It's basically a glorified version of that. Like it calls itself a comic, but it's really like a movie tie-in book that's just like retells a movie in a very poor way.
Right. Yeah. It's not very good. And I'm not trying to discredit comics as a medium when I say that. Like,
no, because I've heard there's some really good. Well, sorry, go ahead.
There's really good comics that I've read. Yeah. I've read the original Watchmen. It's really fucking good. But it's good as a book. Like, I've seen the movie. It's, well,
Yeah,
I remember liking it,
too.
but I don't think it's going to age very well. But here's the thing. It's like, here's something I've always noticed, and that is when it comes to comic book adaptations that are trying to be more one-to-one. Did you ever watch the Killing Joke adaptation that tried to adapt the Killing Joke?
Oh my god, yes. I've seen that.
Wasn't it terrible?
That was the first hour and a half was so pointless.
Well,
it's so awful. And I'll tell you something about this. How
please.
The Batman and Batgirl like being a thing was based off of the animated series, but only the third season. That's based off of the animated series. You probably didn't know that. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah,
also,
that originated from the animated series. Go ahead.
Gross, but like,
yeah,
but like,
and that's in a kids movie. It's a kids show too. Go ahead.
Well, so the first half, yes, is terrible because it's just like, oh, we don't have enough in this comic book to make it into a full feature. We got to add all this Batgirl bullshit that goes nowhere, and it's awful.
I wonder if Batman wants to fuck me. That's basically the plot of the first half.
What a terrible beginning to that movie.
You got the gay friend too. It's like it's like a generic like teen romance.
The 90s gay
TV
best
show.
friends.
Like, exactly. Like, oh my god.
It was so bad.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Dad, for
no. I'm glad I got you this angry.
I'm sorry, Dad, for cursing this much. I'm going to send him this episode. Go ahead.
Anyway, the thing that also bothered me about that movie. So I actually have read the original Killing Joke.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fine. Mm-hmm. I think it's a little. Admittedly, I think it's a little bare bones. Honestly,
okay.
Like, because that's a comic story that was made as a deconstruction of Batman, but without really having any characterization of its own. You know, like it works as a characterization of Batman as a concept, but not as Batman as a character in this story. And so then you get to, so when you get to Batman and Joker, like actually, when you get to the parts that are based off the actual comic in that movie, it's literally just Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill reading the dialogue from the book, from the original comic. And it's like, okay, yeah, this is cool, but like, it doesn't make for a good movie. Like, you're just reciting lines. And here's something that I've always been a champion of, is that just because something is good, sounds good when written, does not necessarily mean it sounds good told. Like, when you hear Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill saying their lines in that movie, it genuinely sounds like they're just reciting lines from a book, and it's not engaging in the slightest.
And even like the kind of like confrontation where Batman and Joker are talking, like Mark Hamill does not sound like the Joker. At that last moment, I noticed that too, because like he just sounds like you said, he sounds like he's just reading lines. And I mean, they're acting for sure. I feel like the emotion he's giving is probably on par with what they're going for in the comic, but it does just feel like they're just reading lines just because is Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill the best Batman and Joker reading the most iconic Batman story in like all comics. It doesn't really feel like they're actually adding on to the adaptation.
And like I said, the original book is kind of bare bones. Like when I remember when I read that and I finished it, I was like, that's it? Like, that was just big words trying to describe what Batman is. It's impressive. Probably for the time it was really, really revolutionary. But looking at it, but like looking at it with hindsight, and after all these years of more Batman media we've gotten since then, it's kind of just more of the same, which is why I freaking love Mask of the Phantasm, because guess what? That is a deconstruction of Batman and its own narrative. So like Batman in this movie has amazing characterization. Whether or not I know him from the series or I know who Batman is as a character in general, the movie has its own story to tell. Killing Joke does not. Killing Joke is saying stuff in response to Batman, like all these Batman stories that came before. Whereas Mask of the Phantasm is doing that while also having an interesting Batman story to tell. And it's an
original Batman story too.
It's come full circle. Now we get it's interesting reading the comic dialogue because guess what? It's really good dialogue,
Mm-hmm.
but it sounds better in movie form.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But
and
like,
you
go
don't
ahead.
get that amazing animation. You don't get that iconic score. You don't get the really good line reads from the voice actors because again, all three of those things are really, really integral to the story of Mask of the Phantasm. The story is
Right.
really good, but when you read this comic, it feels like you're missing something.
Right.
Same as the Killing Joke movie. You're watching it, you're missing something entirely, even though you have more than what the comic had.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. But don't count count out the comics that are based off the animated series altogether because the Harley Quinn origin story Mad Love
No,
was
I don't. Look, yeah,
okay.
no, I'm not
Yeah.
saying all
So
comic stories are bad. I'm
no,
just
no.
saying the Killing Joke, kind of mediocre looking back at it.
It's just interesting to hear you say that because like there was a comic series based off the animated series and Mad Love was the origin story for Harley Quinn, and Harley Quinn was character that was originated from the series, and
Right.
they actually adapted that story into the series. So like and that became one of the best episodes of the series itself. So I think it's funny that they actually had like a comic book run of the show and then adapted it into the show, and it's one of the best episodes of the show. And I think this Doug Walker in his top 10 or top 11 because let's go one step beyond. Remember that episodes of Batman the Animated Series. I think Matt Love is his top 11 or top 10. So don't. I know you're not, but like I think it's funny that you're making that you made that connection to the adaptation of Mask of Phantasm and then also the Killing Joke. But there's also another example of the opposite happening where there was a original comic book story based off the animated series that was adapted into the TV show that became one of the best episodes of the TV show of all time. Hence, my pitch to you to watch the animated series. That was the whole point of that.
I just think this is a very weak comic adaptation,
and that's fair. Yeah.
And I feel like I don't even think you could make a good comic adaptation. Maybe you could, but then
probably could. But
you'd be changing fundamentally what made the original movie so good. Like, let me give you an example of something that really bothers me.
Go
so
ahead.
in the movie, you have the scene where he's looking through, where he like spelunking into that cave because that's where the bats came from. That's where he finds the Bat Cave, and that's when he
becomes Batman.
Well, that's where he gets the ring back from Andrea and with the note saying like she's leaving. And then he cuts, and then it kind of like slowly fades into the next scene where he's like applying all his stuff. He's putting on his gloves, he's putting on his belt. Alfred hands him his mask. He takes a look at the mask. He puts it on. Alfred like backs away in horror and goes, "My God." Mm-hmm. And then it goes into the next scene of establishing that the flashback is over and it's now current time. Current year where like he's investigating Sal Valestra and Andrea.
Right.
All of that is condensed into one page in this comic, and it's awkward and clunky, and I hate it because that is one of the best parts of the movie, and it's just one page in this, and it's so awkward because it's like left with dad to you, like that's one panel. Then the next panel is him going no. Then the next panel is him like actually like at the far off shot of like the spotlight being on him putting on his mask, and then it just shows him entirely in the Batman garb. The point of that shot was not to show him in his Batman garb. It's just to be
that wasn't just a screenshot. They just made an original drawing.
They made an original drawing. It's so annoying. I'm like,
God,
that's why I hate this comic. It's bad. It's a bad adaptation of a really great movie.
I feel like you can do like a reimagined adaptation of this story because it's a very even though this is the original, I did the Phantasm is an original character for this universe. I feel like you could still like so was Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn has been adapted in way more comic book adaptations than any Batman character in existence. And even though she originated from the cartoon, I feel like you can do the same thing with the Phantasm because I think Andrea as a character is very interesting and. In my opinion, I think the movie like barely scratches the surface on that character, and I don't think she appears at all after this movie until like I think there's like a Justice League episode that was like a pseudo Batman Beyond finale, which I know you've seen that, right? You've seen Batman Beyond.
I'm aware of Batman Beyond.
Yeah, you haven't seen it. That's fine. But
I've heard of Batman Beyond.
It's really good. And also, I was gonna pitch you the Batman Beyond movie, Joker: Return of the Joker, which is another really good Batman movie. Have you seen that?
No.
You need to watch it. Anyway, back to my tangent. She only appears once in like the Timverse, because the Justice League and Batman series, Superman series, it's all in the same universe. She only appears once in the Timverse after that movie, which I think that's such a waste of a character, because she's a very fascinating character. I don't think we've ever gotten like a true parallel to Batman like this, aside from like, I guess Red Hood. But yeah. I mean, I think you could probably do like a good reinterpret, or even give her own comic book series that's like an original take on the character in a comic book series, kind of like how they did an original adaptation of Mad Love in like a I guess a comic book series that came out a couple of years ago. That I don't know if it was good or bad or not, but it looked interesting.
I mean, I guess you could probably do that. Yeah. You could, but then again, you're missing that animation, you're missing that voice acting, you're missing that music, and you're fundamentally adding more onto a character that works best as this one-off. Like, I feel like just because I'm going to learn more about Andrea does not guarantee I'm going to like her as a character anymore. Like, I feel like
writing, which
you need really good writing, which
is
not always guaranteed.
Yeah.
So
I would still be interested, because it's a very fascinating character, and it kind of hurts.
I don't know. I think what we got is perfect enough. Okay. Like, I'm not one to wish for more.
That's fair.
I've been hurt too many times.
That's valid. No, I understand that. I guess I see your point, and I agree with your point, but I wouldn't like say no to more of this character. Like, I wouldn't like if they made like a comic book origin story, or like a reimagining of her origin story for a comic book. I wouldn't be like, oh, that's a terrible idea, you shouldn't do that. I wouldn't like be opposed to that, but I agree, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, or at least, if you got it right the first time, why risk ruining it another time? Like, I understand that argument for sure.
So, but I mean, I can't really say anything. They probably go ahead and do it anyway. So
they probably would. And since I've set out in the area on your well-established and popular movie podcast, I'm sure Warner Bros. Can listen to this and be like, we should write that down and give AgentP3 no credit for it, but we should give.
James Gunn listens to this podcast. He knows exactly what's happening.
Yeah, James Gunn. Hey, can you give me a part in like a small part in like the Damian Rain movie? Like, I will cameo. I'll get punched in the face. I'll do anything, honestly. I'll be
James Gunn, do you know Brian hates you?
I know Brian hates him. Oh man, I'm worried about the Superman movie he's gonna make. I think. Because like he doesn't really do well with like iconic characters. Because like the Scooby Doo movie is a good example of that. But we'll see. I'll wait for a trailer.
I'm willing to see it. I can't be any worse than what the DCEU gave. But at the same time, never say never.
Never say never. You're right.
We didn't think it could get worse than Man of Steel. How wrong we were.
I even think Man of Steel was like terrible. It just wasn't like anything amazing.
Well, looking back, it isn't terrible. It's just boring.
For sure. Hindsight, right?
Hindsight. God, I miss the days of Man of Steel. I never thought I'd say that, but God, I miss the days of Man of Steel.
That's 100% fair. That's 100% fair. When the only head of a Cinematic Universe was like the Wayne satellite, or like Aquaman saving Henry Cavill from flooding or from drowning when he was off screen. You remember that theory of like when that scene of him drowning? And then he gets on shore. People were like, "Oh, Aquaman must have saved them." Right? You remember that? You don't remember that? I'm probably that's not the crazy person.
I remember the only. I feel like I've brought up this theory once before, but like the only theory I remember from the DCEU is when like saying people were so mad at Man of Steel that when Batman v Superman was coming out, they're just like, actually, Batman v Superman is the 5th movie in the Nolan trilogy. Like that's how like butthurt they were because Man of Steel was so bad. They're like, no, like Batman can't be played by Ben Affleck. Batman is still played by Christian Bale.
It's the same version. It's different.
It's like, dudes, let it go. Yeah, like Jesus.
Go. Yeah, I'm glad Christopher Nolan and Christian Bale told Warner Bros. To F off when they wanted to.
And they didn't include any Dark Knight iconography in The Flash.
The Flash, I'm so glad.
Oh, dude, Nolan Bros, we're eating good.
Great. Yeah, but I'm assuming you're trying to wrap up, right?
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about Batman Mask of the Phantasm. I mean, it's as good as people say it is. It's actually fucking fantastic.
I probably enjoyed it more this time than I did last year. I don't know why. Like I still liked it last year. Maybe it's because I was just trying to like binge watch all the animated series episodes because I think I was Kevin Conroy unfortunately passed away last year, and I was just revisiting the animated series. I don't think I watched it all fully, and like that was on my timeline. I probably didn't like really digest it like I should as a movie on its own because I was just binge watching it with the rest of the series. But like I guess just watching it like in a vacuum like you and just watching it as a movie and just dissecting it as a movie for this podcast. I think I enjoyed it a lot more as a movie because it does a lot. Not only for Batman, but just as like a movie, like and like I said earlier, like you can not know anything about the animated series or Batman as a character, and still get a lot about get a lot from this movie just because of how well told and executed the plot of the movie is. So I think this is a solid movie. Definitely top 2, top 3, wherever I put the Batman after I watched it again. Batman movie for me. Next movie would be Lego Batman, of course. That's a fantastic Batman movie. I think that's underrated.
You're one of those people.
Yeah, Have you seen Lego Batman?
I have.
You didn't like it?
I don't get the hype. I really don't. Look, I love the Lego movie. Like, don't get me wrong. And I love Batman Mask of the Phantasm. So I love the Lego movie. I love animated Batman movies. I don't get the hype for Lego Batman. But I'm going to leave you with that because I'm not going to explain myself.
No, you're fine. You guys talk about it. This is already long enough. But yeah, no.
I'll just say Batman Mask of the Phantasm, fantastic film. Yeah. If people haven't seen it yet, what the fuck are you doing? Watch it. It's so good. And it's staying in the collection. It is one of the best things ever. I love it. I'm keeping it in the collection. I'll even keep this comic book just because just so that I can say I have a comic adaptation of the movie. It sucks, but at least I have it. Like, R.I.P. Best Buy's physical media section.
I really should have taken advantage of that. I really should, because they probably had a bunch of discounts and a bunch of physical media that I probably didn't want to pay full price on. Yeah.
Well, guess what? I'm still going to Bull Moose. So suck it, Best Buy.
Yeah, suck it, Best Buy. I don't know.
So anyway, Perry, why don't you take this time to shout out your stuff, dude? Where can people find you?
You can find me on AgentP3.com/YouTube or reverse that. Actually, I think that's wrong. But AgentP3 just type me in. You probably see a video called "Why the Boys Is Scary." Do me a favor and do not click on that video unless you haven't watched it, and you can, I guess, watch it after you watch my other videos because I think I put other better videos in that one, and I hate that the that boys video has gotten popular. I'm grateful, of course, for getting all those views, but I make other content, so please support that and watch those. And look out for more content in the future. I also have a second channel just called Perry Hopper. That's my full name. And I have my own podcast, Everything's Better with Perry. I'm about to say Everything Ever All at Once, but no, that's not the name of it. That's the name of the movie. Everything's Better with podcasts where I talk to I basically ripped off this podcast where I talk to random people about random things we like. I even talked to Hal about the Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Volume 3. Yeah, so if you like Hal, you should watch that episode. I think we had a fun time talking about that movie.
Didn't we do another episode that never happened?
And I will do you. I promise you, if we did a second episode of your podcast, I would publish that episode. So I will publish that episode around the same time you publish this. I just have to.
Oh, because we recorded that a year ago.
Yeah, about a year ago. Yeah, it was a good episode. I don't know. I was doing a lot at the time, and I just didn't feel like editing it. But I will edit it and publish it, and that'll be the next installment in the Everything With podcast before it goes into absurdity. Because I have no idea if I want to go back to podcasting or not. But if I do, it'll probably be.
I honestly thought you didn't release that episode because I mentioned the Jeremy Johns blackface thing.
Oh yeah, I just thought
you were really upset by that.
No, I mean it's what Robert Downey Jr. did blackface too. It sucks, but it was a culture of the time period. Doesn't make it right, but it happened. I'm not upset about it. It just happened, and we can
good old Jeremy.
Good old Jeremy. We can criticize him for it now, but again, yeah.
I assume he doesn't like that he did that.
I assume he regrets doing that for sure. Yeah.
Well, anyway, this is the second time I've mentioned that on an episode of ours, but that doesn't matter.
It's okay. Yeah, but no. Right. Thank you for letting me on this podcast, Hal. Really appreciate it. Hopefully, we could do this again. Sorry for rambling on because I definitely went on a bunch of tangents that I don't remember how they ended, including this one I'm on right now. But Thank you again for having me on this podcast, buddy. And
yeah, dude, thanks for coming on. I'm glad we talked about. Well, I'm not glad we talked about Tom and Jerry the movie, but hey, now I never have to watch it again.
Yeah, I'm glad that I got to make peace with it and make peace with the fact that it is a bad movie. And yes, I did enjoy it as a kid, but that not everything as a kid can be enjoyed as an adult. So I'm glad I learned that lesson while watching this movie. So.
Well, anyway, thanks for coming on, and thank you, the listener, for listening to today's episode. Yeah. If you want to support the show, give a like, give a comment. Listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or on YouTube. That's fine too. Doesn't matter. But yeah, thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
I'm Jerry. What the hell did